Alright, coming at you with a second video, try and give you as much help as possible, getting you ready for the future exam. Alright, so I'm going to jump around this packet, a lot of similar problems for this one. Alright, so problem 1, get the pen going, A equals 3, K equals -2, B equals 2, which means our period, 2 pi divided by 2 is pi. And H, pi units left. Alright, so my graph here, I'll make that line. So if I'm starting at pi, and my period is pi, that means I end at the y-axis. So that makes life a little bit easier. So in between that is pi over 2, and my midpoint would be, negatives. Alright, so here I got negative pi over 4 and negative 3 pi over 4. Alright, so my A value is at, my K value is at -2. So I'm looking down there. I'm going up 3 and down 3. So up 3 puts me at 1, and down 3 puts me at -3, -4, -5. Alright, so help myself out with my lines. Alright, so I got from pi, there's my box. Alright, so I'm going from negative pi to 0. I got my 3 midpoints. The whole graph centered around that y equals -2. I'm going up 3, I'm going down 3. So what am I doing? Sine graph, I start on the midline. I also end on the midline. And the midpoint is on the midline. Since it's negative, I go down, then go up, and there's my curve. Alright, skipping 2, jumping to 3. Alright, so for this one, if I'm looking at this, it looks like it's going 1.5, 1, 2, 3 to -3.5. Alright, on the exam, scale will definitely be a little bit easier to go with. So if I'm looking to figure out my K value, K equals 1.5 plus -3.5 divided by 2. That would give me -1. Alright, so then how far off am I from -1? So if I'm going from -1 to -3.5, my A value is 2.5. Right, now, the question we always have to have is, where are we starting? Right, where's this graph starting? I'm going to go with a cos graph. Right, so I'm going to say in this problem that my H value is -3 pi over 2 to the left. Alright, what else do we need? Well, if I go from here to here, alright, so I got 8 pi over 2 divided by 2. My period is 8 pi over 2, 4 pi. Alright, so the period is 4 pi. So that means B equals 2 pi over 4 pi, which is 1/2. Alright, time to make my equation. Y equals, I got a positive A, stick with a nice fraction. I got my B value of 1/2. I got my X plus 3 pi over 2 because of that shift. And then my K is -1. And if you wanted to, with this situation, you could have, our midline's here. So if you wanted to, there's a sine graph. You wouldn't have the complete sine graph there, but that's a starting spot for a sine graph, right? This would be a sine graph also. That would be a complete positive sine graph. And there's options, right? Here's a negative cos graph. So really, you got 4 different things in that one little view there. All right, solving problems. Now right away, what's different about this compared to other ones we've seen? That. Right, that is different. We always have to check on that. Alright, so looking through a few of these. Alright, so I got this. Cos x equals, if I take the square root, alright, so I got rad 1, positive negative, rad 1 over rad 2, which is positive -1 over rad 2, which is positive negative rad 2 over 2. Right, that's key. So since it's positive, negative, I'm in every quadrant, ASTC. Now when we usually do this problem, we're saying we got pi over 4, we got 3 pi over 4, we got 5 pi over 4, and we got 7 pi over 4. But the problem is that we have a new domain. So with our new domain, this is good, this is good, this is not good. All right, so getting a coterminal idea. If I subtract 2 pi from that, I got negative 3 pi over 4. All right, again, not good, not a domain. Subtract 2 pi, negative pi over 4. So everything has to make sense in the scheme of the domain we have. So we have our usual answers, but we got to modify them to make sure they work in the domain the problem's giving us. All right, so right away, I see it. X over 3. What is that telling me? It's going to be one of those problems where we got the plus 2 pi n. All right, so cos of x over 3 equals 1 over 2. All right, so x over 3 equals x over 3 equals. So in this problem right away, we're talking about a half. So if we're talking about a half with cos, we're talking about 60 degrees. So we can have pi over 3. ASTC. So if we're talking about 60 degrees with cos, we're also here. And if we have that, we'd have 5 pi over 3. But what's the issue? Our domain. We can't have 5 pi over 3. So we need something coterminal. So negative pi over 3 plus our 2 pi n. Okay. So we multiply everything by 3. X equals pi plus 6 pi n. X equals negative pi plus 6 pi n. Right? And understanding that if it's if the b value is 1/3, the period 2 pi divided by 1/3 is 6 pi. This is an extremely long curve. Right? So we're used to our curve taking place between 0 and 2 pi. This is totally stretched out. Right? So our answer is right away, we got pi, and then if we add 6 pi to that, it's clearly not fitting in this. Right? We got negative pi. If we add 6 pi n, that's totally not fitting. But even with these two answers, our domain is hard bracket negative pi in parentheses. So that tells me right there, pi not included. The only answer to this problem is negative pi because it works in the domain that we have. All right, so we got sine x minus pi equals rad 2 over 2. All right, so ASTC. So I'm in quadrant 1 and 2. So I got x minus pi equals pi over 4. X minus pi equals, well, if I'm here, I'm talking about 3 pi over 4, which is not going to work for this problem because we have it between, oh, that works. Yep, that actually works. 3 pi over 4. And I got the plus 2 pi n for both of these. Alright, so if I add pi to both these, alright, plus pi, x equals 5 pi over 4 plus 2 pi n. I couldn't add pi to 2 pi n because there's an n there. Pi doesn't have that. Right over here, plus pi again, x equals 7 pi over 4 plus 2 pi n. Okay, so the issue, right? This problem is between negative pi and pi. So right away, this is too big and this is too big. So usually we add 2 pi, but here we can actually subtract 2 pi. If I subtract 2 pi, I get negative 3 pi over 4. If I subtract another 2 pi, I'm outside the range. For the second piece, minus 2 pi gives me negative pi over 4, and if I subtract 2 pi again, I'm out of the range. Right? That's our answer. Right, so since our problem here is saying between negative pi to pi, that's our answer. If our domain was from 0 to pi, we'd have a different answer, right? Then it would be x equals 5 pi over 4 and x equals 7 pi over 4. But everything we do is based off the domain we have. So we have to make sure we check that. We have to make sure that it makes mathematical sense.